And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
Turn on the tube, what do I see? A whole lot of people crying, don't blame me. They point their crooked little fingers at everybody else. Spend all the time feeling sorry for themselves. Victim of this, victim of that. Your mama's too thin and your daddy too fat. Get over it. Get over it.
Yeah, get over it. Here and declare your independence of me, Ernest Hancock, and my very, 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 very special guest, Lawrence Reed from FEE, Foundation for Economic Education, FEE.org. And I'll tell you the one thing we can agree on, Lawrence, is that we're looking for an opportunity to have a change and it be peaceful. And I'm not giving up on the change. I'm just of the mind that in the end, freedom always wins. It's just that it gets really messy first. And I'm wondering if, my advocacy for government, if we're going to do it through this government, certainly, that we're going to be able to have a successful revolution, that we're going to be able to make the change using this process. And I'm getting the impression that, from your advocacy and your rhetoric, that you're kind of, let's use this system. Let's try and fix the Constitution. Let's get the government back in its box. And if that is your advocacy, I'm trying to get some mechanism by which you're going to do that.
Well, Ernie, I really believe very strongly that the system as it is, as imperfect as it is all that we've got for the moment. And I would not advocate any violence when you have an opportunity through a representative government system to make the needed changes. I'm just hoping that people will come to the senses, come to appreciate once again how a free economy and free society work, and then send the appropriate instructions to their government. And the way you do that is you elect the right people and you unelect the wrong people.
Okay, and this Congress that's come in, we got a big sea change in the little letter that's after their name, and what are you expecting from this Congress?
Well, I'm hopeful, but I also am prepared to be disappointed. I think usually when it comes to government, the lower your expectations, the more likely you'll be happier in the end. Well, that's a long way of saying that I'm very hopeful, but time will tell. If people who showed up at the polls and voted for so many of the right people this time go back home and forget it, then the progress that we're expecting will all come undone. It requires us to be active and to demand that our government get its house in order, and not at the expense of people through higher taxes, but rather through drastically cutting its spending. So I'm hopeful. Time will tell, but it's not going to be easy.
One thing that would be of interest to a lot of people, I'm sure, and certainly myself, is what are you looking for as a sign? I mean, we have the Congress will start in January. They'll get in there. They'll have their I don't know, whatever woohoo legislation that they're putting in. I'm sure both Dr. Pauls will have legislation that people are going to be paying attention to. And how long before you start to see if there is going to be political success using this Congress? I mean, at what point are you? Do they have to wait until Obama actually signs something, or at least put it on his desk? And how many weeks, months are you willing? You willing to go a full term, a year, or is it going to become part of the 2012 election cycle? Or are we going to start? Because even here in Arizona, there are polls that they have in local newspapers and so on for who's your choice for Republican candidate for president. And once again, they don't even put Ron Paul's name on the poll. Now, of course, all the comments and people freaking out, and we're just going through the same thing again. So I'm wondering, what you're going to be looking for as your measure that they're going in the right direction.
Well, spending. Spending is the single most important issue. I won't be convinced that we've made a substantial turnaround until we see actual and substantial spending reductions passed into law. That's not going to be easy as long as Barack Obama's in the White House, because that's not his perspective. But the House of Representatives could start by at least sending a strong message by repealing Obamacare and slashing government spending. After all, under our Constitution, the House is the appropriating body, and the President can't spend it if the House doesn't appropriate it. So I'll be looking for what they do on spending, and not just nipping and tucking here and there, but dramatic spending reductions. The wholesale elimination of activities and programs and bureaucracies of government. Not just cutting spending, but actually eliminating some agencies and departments of government. That would be a great sign. Now, you may not get much of that in this next Congress, but maybe in 2012, when we can go at it again, we can elect enough additional good ones that they'll do that. That's my hope, but time will tell. Meantime, we focused in this interview so much on politics. I think certainly my work is focused not on politics, it's focused on educating the grassroots across the country. Education is where the long-run battle will be won or lost. If Americans don't, once again, come to understand and appreciate and be prepared to sacrifice everything for individual liberty, then this country's future is very, very dark indeed, no matter who gets elected.
You know, the one thing that I remember, it was the Ross Perot years. It's 1992. He's screaming about, here's the chart, here's what's going to happen in the economy, this is our debt, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, Frank Luntz, which is one of his pollsters, now working for Fox, he went on to work for Newt Gingrich and crowd with the contract with America, or on America, depending on your perspective. They did that 6 weeks before the midterm election in 94. Now we have 6 weeks before the midterm election after the Ron Paul revolution, and they did this promise with America. And this was the Tea Party creed. This is our promise. This is the group. This is what we're going to do. And in there, I remember saying things, it's like more war. I certainly saw that. And, defense and missile shield and enforcement of sanctions in Iran, not on Iran or about Iran or, having, it's like, U.S., I guess, unilateral enforcement of sanctions in Iran. And I'm going, seriously? This is what their this was the promise. This is what they were elected on. So it's not going to take very long before we start to see what's being passed by them. And I bet you it's more military spending.
Well, that's been, unfortunately, the course of recent history. There's no question about it. But Dr. Paul has been, as you know, on the forefront of trying to get that debate changed so that people start asking questions like, why do we have to have hundreds of thousands of troops in places like Western Europe more than 2 decades after the fall of the Soviet Union? Why is America in so many other places around the world? If our foreign policy was dictated exclusively by the legitimate security and defense interests of our people, I don't think we need to be in some 100 or 120 countries. I think we'd be spending a lot less and focusing on defending ourselves, not most of the rest of the world.
Well, but that wasn't the promise. They already told us what they're going to do.
Oh, yeah, well, you may be right. I'm not acquainted with that part of it, but I'm not a partisan Republican, so they say a lot of things I don't necessarily read or pay attention to.
So we're looking for economic, spending cuts. If they're going to be adding on more bailouts and more, right now we're looking at the lame duck Congress wanting to pass retroactive laws that make all this kind of robo-signing of changing property rights in these mortgages and so on. State by state, got 50 attorney generals in there they're going to make it to where they can just, we can foreclose because we just changed the law. And
well, I have no confidence in the current Congress, the one that's about to leave, whether they have a lame duck session that does much or not. This is the bunch that gave us Obamacare, that gave us the bailouts, and so I wouldn't put anything past this group. I'm a little more hopeful for the next one, though.
Yay! The next one, they're gonna undo that law.
Well, that remains to be seen. If I'm not predicting that they will. I think even if they did, it would likely be only by the House, not by the Senate. And even if the Senate repealed Obamacare, Obama himself would veto it. But so this is probably a many-year project just to get Obamacare off the books.
Well, that's what we're going to hear about, to give us some perspective on history and the fall of the Roman Empire and how we're repeating a lot of the same things. Give us an education from Lawrence Reed from the Foundation for Economic Education, FEE.org. Go check it out. Here on Declare Your Independence, we are going to give you the great speakers at the Freedom Summit, of which Lawrence Reed is one of them. We'll be right back.